Hey there, this is the One Boom, and here's a freestyle opinionated commentary that I do not want misconstrued as fact. This is not factual, this is not based off of testing, this is just based off of in-game experience, so don't think I'm citing sources and statistics. But I wanted to talk about aim assist ranges in Call of Duty World War II briefly, and why I think there needs to be a drastic overhaul to the weapon play in Call of Duty World War II. None of this stuff will ever happen. Only about 40% of people watching this video will even agree with me or see my point. But let's continue anyway. Fool's errands are my favorites. So let's talk about aim assist ranges. Now in Call of Duty, every weapon has a range where the aim assist stops working. I will be bringing up PC later, but of course right now I'm talking about console. That's where I play, that's where most Call of Duty players play, so we're talking about console right now. And I swear to God, if I get any comments about how aim assist just aims for you and plays the game for you, if that was the case, then console KDs would be much higher than PC KDs, but that's not the case. Keyboard and mouse is way more accurate and way easier to use once you've learned it. Analog sticks are arcane and horrible. Some of us just happen to like them because we're retarded. We're console peasants. We deserve to be locked up in a zoo. Anyway, continuing on, talking about aim assist ranges, one of the big inconsistencies in gunfights when it comes to first-person shooters is connection, body multipliers, and aim assist ranges. There are, of course, other variables in other games, but that's the big three I run into all the time. If the server tick rate is low, gunfights will feel inconsistent. If the connection in the game is just bad, gunfights will be inconsistent. Sometimes that depends on the area you live in. In fact, one of the theories I heard about Call of Duty World War II servers, and why some people say they're amazing and some people say they suck, is that when they turned off dedicated servers and people had to do listen servers and play with people in their area, the connection was very good. But because of where they live, when dedicated servers got turned on and the game wanted to connect you to a dedicated server, that dedicated server was actually farther away from the local people you were playing with on a listen server. And that might not be a complete negative impact, but it'll definitely feel much different than connecting to local players. Or I should say more local players. I'm sure they're not in your neighborhood. So there's a lot of variables to the connection one, and we could talk about online games and connection and ISPs all day long, but that one's a little bit more complicated and actually a little bit harder to pinpoint because connections are different for everybody with every game. Now let's talk about body multipliers real fast before we get into the meat of the conversation here. Body multipliers, if they're too different from each other, gunfights will feel very strange. If it deducts a lot of damage for shooting somebody in the thigh, and then deducts more damage for shooting them in the shin, and then more for the foot, same for the hand, upper arm, and lower arm, same for titties and tummy, same for head and ear. The ear one's a little bit crazy. But basically, if you have your optimum damage when shooting at the chest but not the stomach, or you have your optimum damage when shooting the chest and the stomach but not the arms, or maybe the upper arms but not the lower arms, there are a lot of games out there that have weird body multipliers and weird damage models for their guns, and this will create inconsistent gunfights. You wonder why you didn't kill that person? Well, because one of your bullets hit their upper arm. And yes, arm shots in theory and realistically should deal less damage, but it does create an inconsistency. I'm not saying it's immediately negative and that no game should ever have body multipliers like that. I'm just saying that's a reason for some inconsistencies in gunfights. Those games usually push players to be more accurate by aiming for the head or upper chest. But when we're playing on console, we have aim assist ranges, and in Call of Duty, like I said, every weapon has a range where the aim assist stops working. You stop getting that little tiny rotation, that slowdown. And that's really what I like with the controller, is when it kind of slows down your sensitivity over the target. It's not aiming for you, it's just making those fine adjustments when you're aiming at them a little bit easier, because analog sticks, again, are arcane and are terrible. Again, we just like them and don't hate them, mouse is better, whatever. So, where does my opinion come in, and what do I want to see done to Call of Duty World War II specifically? Well, here's my proposed idea. Are you listening, children? Proposed idea. I'm not saying this is fact, I'm not saying this would make the game better. I'm just saying if I was a developer, I would do internal testing with this idea in order to make gunfights more consistent. Call of Duty is all about speed and dropping people as fast as possible. You want the least amount of inconsistencies and variables in a Call of Duty game. That's why Call of Duty actually encourages you to move and shoot at the same time, while other games that might cause spread or increased recoil or just overall less control. I feel like, and here's again my opinion, and you could disagree with it, and it does sound drastic, but all aim assist ranges should be infinite, hear me out, as long as it's coupled with proper weapon tuning. Now, here's why. There are certain gunfights I had in Advanced Warfare and COD WW2 that really frustrated me. I got into these kind of engagements all the time and I hated it. I'll get into one gunfight with somebody at a range where my aim assist is not there. Now, I can control my aim without aim assist at a distance. I've played enough console games to know how to do this. I'll kill the person fairly easily, and then I'll get into a gunfight with somebody inside my aim assist range. Suddenly, there's an inconsistency. Can you name what it is? That first gunfight, my sights wouldn't slow down or rotate my camera a little bit towards the enemy, and this next gunfight's about to do that to my camera and my sights. Maybe I'm a sensitive little baby and I don't know how to play Call of Duty properly, but in my opinion, it's frustrating to go get a kill at mid-range with an SMG because you controlled the recoil, you did it properly, and then go into a gunfight and there's the aim assist, there's the rotation, there's the slowdown, and inconsistency arises. I don't know why, but I don't like getting into gunfights in my aim assist range and getting kills and then going a little bit outside of it. They're 1 foot outside of that aim assist range that I've been playing in and I need to kill them to survive, but suddenly I can't aim at that person anymore. And they already have a beat on me, and I'm so used to correcting for aim assist because my last 4 gunfights that I don't know how to shoot this person. Like I said earlier, I can deal with no aim assist at a distance, that's fine. But if I do no aim assist gunfight, no aim assist gunfight, no aim assist gunfight, aim assist gunfight, that actually is jarring to me. And the same if you flip aim assist gunfight, aim assist gunfight, aim assist gunfight, no aim assist gunfight. Wow, that's hard to say. Now, the solution to this is for me to get good, right? Absolutely. But just because that's the fact doesn't mean I can't share my idea here. Now, you couldn't just increase infinite aim assist range without changing up how weapons work. I feel like weapons across the board would need increased recoil, both in terms of kick, spread, and visual recoil, so that somebody doesn't lock onto you at a distance with their SMG with laser point precision and knock you off the face of the planet. The SMG can't be just as good as an assault rifle now, so it actually has to have its low damage that in COD WW2 the SMGs pretty much already have, coupled with much worse accuracy. Then I would just do a flat recoil buff to all weapons. Just increase the recoil on all weapons. That way no one's locking onto you across the map and melting you, and you have a chance to get away because they still have to control that silly thing called recoil. Another thing to talk about is you wouldn't want a ton of aim assist pulls at long range. If a sniper has a beat on you across the map, you don't want your little aim assist slowdown to give away his position. So in my opinion, you should only have aim assist when aiming down sights and while standing still, because currently in Call of Duty you only have aim assist while moving. That's just another idea though. I would just love to see them do something more interesting with the aim assist. And my last big thing is, what if we just turned it off or toned it way down? That's a discussion I want to see in the comments below. I'm just trying to start an idea. Just put a thought in your head that you can carry with you through this Call of Duty, into the next one, into Battlefield, into whatever other shooters you play on console. But there's a reason the flat recoil buff would also benefit PC players, and I kind of saved this till the end to really make sure you were listening. I feel like Call of Duty, specifically on PC, is a bit of a mess. I feel like the amount of control you get with the mouse makes so many guns way too good at certain ranges. I constantly get told by PC Battlefield fans, right? And they'll tell me to use a certain gun, and I'm like, hell no. I don't have the control of a mouse. That gun kicks way too much. There are certain guns in Battlefield and Call of Duty that are better on console, and even though they have a lower rate of fire, less DPS, just because they're easier to control. In my experience, PC games that have really intuitive, easy to use guns often give you a lot of melty, robotic deaths. I feel like certain guns are used at the wrong ranges because of the amount of control you get with a mouse. So I think the flat recoil increase would be a really good idea for PC. That's my stupid console player's opinion that's only dabbled in PC Call of Duty and doesn't embrace it. And having just consistent low aim assist or consistent normal aim assist would be a lot better, or just maybe try removing it altogether and see how people get along. And my closing statement here is a big piece of beef I have with COD World War II, and the reason I'm really making this video. Why the fuck does the aim assist start so far off from the target? I feel like in close range, if I aim down sight and my sight wasn't already on that guy, trying to pull my sight over, it feels like there's a force field around him that keeps me from aiming at him. That's not okay in my mind. When someone sprints past me or jumps over me, my aim assist should not be that strong that I can't aim at him. So there, if you stayed till this point in the video, say bipod. And I want to make this very clear, and you can let people know in the comment section if you see any triggered people, you can let them know this. This is a non-issue. This is not a reason I hate COD World War II. This is not a reason I hate Call of Duty on PC and grr, I hate everything. No, no, no. This is just an idea I'm putting out there. And maybe a developer hears it. Maybe you guys hear it and tell it to a developer. I don't know. I just would like people to play around with ideas, and I think we can make games better if we throw around ideas and don't shoot them down and don't speak of them as facts. I'm not telling you guys facts here. I'm not letting you guys know how Sledgehammer Games could fix Call of Duty or something like that. I'm just letting you guys know my opinion because of what I've noticed with a lack of consistency in the gunfights in COD World War II. In the meantime, I'll just practice my aim and get good, and feel free to make fun of aim assist in the comments section below. It's only been around for a long fucking time, and people have been using it for a long fucking time, so I'm sure it's not gonna be as useless as sweeping a fucking coastal beach. I'll see you when I see ya. Goodbye, and I'm sure there's other beaches that aren't coastal, that's why I specified that.